All right, so are you ready to peek into the future?
I am always ready for that.
Well, today we're diving deep into something pretty incredible. It's the MIT Technology Review's 10 breakthrough technologies for 2025.
Yeah, these lists are always so fascinating, right?
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a sense of like where things are headed.
Exactly.
And, whether you're like a hardcore tech enthusiast or just kind of curious about what's coming next, this deep dive, I think, is going to give you a glimpse into some seriously game-changing innovations.
I think what's really fascinating about this particular list is it goes beyond just like cool gadgets and gizmos.
Right.
It really dives into how technology is going to be used to tackle some of humanity's, biggest challenges.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about like solutions for climate change, advancements in healthcare, even exploring the mysteries of the universe.
Okay, I'm hooked already. So where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, why don't we start with something that's literally out of this world?
Go.
The Vera C. Rubin Observatory.
Ooh, I've heard about this. Isn't this the one with like that giant telescope, massive camera?
Yeah, that's it. It actually boasts the largest digital camera ever built for astronomy.
What?
Yeah, it's housed in this telescope that's named after Vera Rubin. She was a pioneering astronomer who helped confirm the existence of dark matter.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Talk about a legacy.
So what's the big deal with this observatory? What is it actually going to do?
So the Rubin Observatory is on a mission to create the most detailed map of the universe ever made. Over a decade, it's going to scan the entire southern sky, capturing images of billions of galaxies.
Billions.
Billions.
Wow, that's a mind-boggling amount of data.
It is.
So what are they actually hoping to find?
The main goal is to shed light on two of the biggest mysteries in astrophysics:
Which are?
dark matter and dark energy.
Okay.
These invisible forces, they make up 95% of the universe.
Wow.
And we still know very little about them.
So it's kind of like putting a puzzle together.
Yeah, it's like a giant cosmic puzzle, trying to understand these forces that we can't even see, but that are shaping everything around us.
So that's pretty incredible. All right, so we've gone from the vastness of space.
Mm-hmm.
Can we bring it back down to Earth a little bit?
You can definitely do that.
All right.
How about generative AI search?
Generative AI. Okay, that sounds kind of intriguing. What is that? Is that like those chatbots that can write poems and stories?
It is related. So generative AI refers to these algorithms that can create new content. So that could be text, images, even music. But in the case of search, it's about revolutionizing how we find information online.
Okay.
So imagine asking a question, and instead of getting just a list of links, you get a concise AI-generated summary that answers your question directly.
So no more scrolling through pages and pages of search results.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing.
It could totally change the way we learn, the way we access information, making it much faster and more efficient.
Okay, so we've got telescope mapping the universe. We've got AI changing how we search for information. What else is on this list? What else do they got?
How about we stick with AI for a little bit longer?
Okay.
Let's talk about small language models.
Small language models. I thought bigger was better when it came to AI.
That's what we used to think.
Right.
But these smaller models are proving to be incredibly powerful and efficient. So unlike those massive energy-hungry models that require, huge data centers,
Right.
these smaller versions can actually run on, everyday devices like your phone or your laptop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're much more accessible.
Okay, so what is the advantage of having these AI models running on our devices?
Well, it opens up this whole world of possibilities for really personalized AI experiences.
Oh.
So imagine having an AI assistant that can, instantly translate languages, compose emails for you, or even create custom music based on your mood.
Okay, so it's like having this tiny little genius in your pocket, ready to help you with anything. I kind of like that idea.
So before you get too excited, though,
Okay.
let's address something that's maybe a little less glamorous,
Sure.
but equally important: cattle burping remedies.
Wait, cow burps?
Yeah.
What does this have to do with breakthrough technology?
It might sound a little funny, but it's actually a serious issue.
Okay.
So cattle burps release methane,
Right.
and that's a really potent greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change.
Right.
And now scientists have developed these food supplements that can significantly reduce those methane emissions.
So we're tackling climate change one cow burp at a time.
Exactly. It's a great example of how even these seemingly small innovations can have a really big impact.
I love that. All right, so speaking of tackling big challenges, let's move on to something that sounds straight out of science fiction.
Okay, what's that?
Robotaxis?
Oh, yeah.
Self-driving cars. I've heard about them being tested in some cities.
Hmm.
Are they actually becoming a reality?
They are. So multiple companies are now rolling out robotaxi services, and I think it's only a matter of time before they become much more commonplace.
It's wild to imagine, like, you hail a ride and a car with no driver pulls up.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
It's like, it's not that different from, ordering food on your phone and having it delivered to your door.
Right. Exactly.
Technology is changing everything so rapidly.
Speaking of changing things, what about the environmental impact of all of this new technology?
That's a great point.
Right.
And it leads us to another breakthrough.
Okay.
Cleaner jet fuel.
Oh, good. Because, I mean, I love to travel, but I always feel a little guilty about the carbon footprint of flying.
I know.
So what are they doing to make it more sustainable?
So there are some exciting developments in this area. We're talking about sustainable jet fuels made from things like used cooking oil, agricultural waste, even gases captured from the air.
Wait, used cooking oil powering planes?
Yeah.
That's crazy and amazing.
Yeah, it's like turning trash into treasure.
I love it.
And it has the potential to significantly reduce the aviation industry's carbon footprint. Now, let's go back to the world of AI.
Okay.
But this time, we're combining it with robotics. Get ready for fast-learning robots.
Fast learning robots. What makes them so special?
Remember those small language models we were talking about?
Yes.
They're actually playing a key role in allowing robots to learn new tasks much, much faster than ever before.
Yeah.
So instead of just being programmed for, very specific actions, these robots can adapt and learn on the fly, which makes them incredibly versatile.
So potentially they could work in more complex environments like hospitals or even our homes.
Precisely. Imagine a robot that can help with, like, household chores one day and then assist in a medical emergency the next.
Okay, that's both amazing and a little bit unnerving. Can't help but think about those sci-fi movies where the robots become too intelligent.
It's true. As robots become more capable, it does raise some important questions about, safety, about ethics.
Wow.
We need to ensure that these technologies are developed and used responsibly.
Of course, yeah.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have so much more to cover on this list.
Okay, lead the way. What's next?
Let's dive into a breakthrough that offers hope in the fight against a global health crisis, long-acting HIV prevention meds.
I've heard about this. Isn't it a new type of medication that can prevent HIV infection for a longer period of time?
Yes, this is a total game changer in the fight against HIV/AIDS.
Wow.
We're talking about an injectable medication that provides months of protection, which could revolutionize HIV prevention efforts.
That's incredible news. Really, it's like a ray of hope in a really long battle.
It has the potential to save millions of lives and bring us closer to, ending the epidemic.
That's amazing. All right, so we've covered space exploration, AI, climate change, and healthcare. What else is there?
How about a breakthrough that could transform a major industry, green steel?
Green steel. Isn't all steel just, steel? What makes it green?
So traditional steel production is a major source of carbon emissions,
Right.
but green steel is made using a process that relies on hydrogen powered by renewable energy.
Okay, so it's like making steel, but without all the guilt, all the environmental guilt.
Exactly. And the first industrial-scale green steel plant is actually set to begin operations very soon,
Wow.
which could mark a real turning point in making the steel industry much more sustainable.
That's really encouraging. It feels like we're at this pivotal moment where, innovation is driving real change in addressing like these huge global challenges.
I agree. And speaking of groundbreaking innovations,
Yes.
let's wrap up this first part of our deep dive
Okay.
with a look at stem cell therapies.
Oh, stem cell research. It's been in the news for years, right? What's the latest breakthrough?
So stem cells are finally delivering on their long-held promise to cure diseases.
Wow.
We're seeing experimental treatments using lab-grown stem cells, showing really remarkable success in treating things like epilepsy and type 1 diabetes.
Wait, so conditions that were once considered like incurable are now potentially treatable with stem cells?
Exactly. And this is just the beginning.
That's mind-blowing.
As research progresses, we could see stem cell therapies being used to treat a wide range of conditions, from heart disease to Alzheimer's.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of all these incredible technologies.
I know, right?
I can't wait to dive in some more.
Yeah, it's true. We've only just begun to kind of explore the potential of these 10 breakthrough technologies, and believe me, there's so much more to uncover.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's dive back in. You mentioned that the Rubin Observatory is is hoping to learn more about dark matter.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Sounds pretty mysterious.
It is mysterious. Dark matter doesn't emit, absorb, or reflect light.
Okay.
So we can't see it directly. It's like trying to study a ghost.
Right.
We only know it exists because of its gravitational effects on the things that we can see, like galaxies.
Oh, okay. So it's like this invisible stuff that's holding the universe together.
Essentially, yes. And the Rubin Observatory, by mapping the distribution of galaxies with such incredible precision, will help us understand how dark matter is distributed throughout the universe, which could be a huge step towards figuring out what dark matter is actually made of and how it influences the evolution of the universe.
Wow, that's pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Makes you realize how much we still don't know
Right.
about the
There's
universe.
so much to learn.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes science so exciting, right?
Absolutely.
Always something new to discover. Speaking of new discoveries, can we circle back to generative AI search for a sec?
Sure.
I'm curious about, the potential downsides. Is there a risk of like bias creeping into those AI-generated summaries?
That is a really valid concern. Generative AI models are trained on massive amounts of data.
Right.
And if that data reflects existing biases in society, the AI can inherit those biases.
So it's like teaching a child with biased textbooks.
Exactly.
They're going to learn like a skewed version of reality. That's a little worrying.
Yeah, it is. And that's why, researchers are working so hard to develop techniques to mitigate bias in AI systems.
Okay.
It's about making sure that, the training data is diverse, it's representative, and that the algorithms themselves are designed to be fair and impartial.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like a complex challenge,
It is.
but it's one that we need to address if we want to create AI systems that are trustworthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. What about those small language models? One thing that kind of struck me was their potential to make AI more accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
Not just like, big tech companies.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine a world where anyone can create their own like AI-powered apps and tools, right?
Right.
These small language models could like empower individuals and small businesses to harness the power of AI in ways we haven't even thought of yet.
So it's like democratizing AI.
Yeah.
Giving everyone a chance to participate
Yes.
in this technological revolution. I really like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to a topic that might seem a little bit more down to earth, but it has significant implications for our planet.
Okay.
Those cattle burping remedies.
Yeah.
I'm curious about like the feasibility of this solution.
Mm-hmm.
Can we really scale up the production of these supplements to actually make a meaningful difference?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? It does seem like a huge logistical challenge to, get these supplements to cows all over the world, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of effort going into making it happen.
Okay.
So, companies are working on developing much more efficient production methods,
Yeah.
better distribution networks. Plus, there are also these ongoing efforts to breed cattle that naturally produce less methane.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a multi-pronged approach,
Right.
which is really encouraging.
Yeah, it shows that people are, taking this problem seriously and exploring different solutions.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's talk about robotaxis.
Okay.
I have to admit, I'm still a bit hesitant
Yeah.
about getting into a car without a driver.
Yeah, I understand. I think it's natural to be a little cautious.
Right.
We're talking about machines making life or death decisions out there on the road.
Right, exactly.
But the technology behind robotaxis is advancing so rapidly.
Yeah.
These vehicles are equipped with, an array of sensors, cameras, AI algorithms that allow them to perceive their surroundings, make decisions in real time, and often, even better than human drivers can.
So it's not just about replacing the human driver with a robot. It's about creating a system that's potentially safer and more efficient.
Exactly. And with each mile driven, these robotaxis collect more data, they learn, they improve their performance.
It's like they're constantly getting smarter and safer with every trip. That's pretty impressive. Speaking of impressive technology, cleaner jet fuel, I mean, that's a game changer. But let's be realistic. Isn't sustainable fuel way more expensive
Yeah.
than traditional jet fuel?
You're right. It is currently more expensive to produce, but as production scales up and technology improves, those costs are expected to come down.
Okay.
Plus, governments are starting to offer incentives, subsidies to encourage the adoption of these cleaner fuels.
So it's like they're trying to jumpstart a new industry.
Exactly.
It might take some time, but eventually the economics will make sense.
And in the long run, the benefits far outweigh the costs. We're talking about reducing carbon emissions, decreasing our reliance on fossil fuels, creating a more sustainable future for aviation.
It's an investment worth making, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to those fast learning robots for a second.
Sure.
I can see, the potential benefits. I also can't help but wonder about the potential for job displacement.
Yeah.
What happens to all the people whose jobs are replaced by robots?
That's a very valid concern, and it's one that we need to address very proactively. As with any technological advancement that automates tasks, there will be job losses
Right.
in certain sectors. But, history has shown that new technologies also create new jobs in other areas.
So it's about adapting to the changing landscape
Mm-hmm.
and preparing the workforce for the jobs of the future.
Exactly. We need to invest in education, retraining programs to help people transition to, new roles in fields like AI development, robotics, maintenance, data analysis.
Right. So it's like we're entering this new era of work
Yeah.
where humans and robots are going to be collaborating.
Side by side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's turn our attention to a breakthrough that offers hope in the fight against a devastating disease.
Yeah.
Those long-acting HIV prevention meds.
Right.
It's a remarkable development, but I'm curious about the accessibility of this medication.
Mhm.
Will it be available to everyone who needs it, regardless of their location or their income level?
That's a really crucial question.
Yeah.
It would be a tragedy if this life-saving medication was only available to the privileged few.
Right.
Equitable access to healthcare is absolutely essential, and that's why organizations are working so hard to make sure that these long-acting HIV prevention meds are available to everyone who needs them, regardless of their circumstances.
Yeah.
It's about addressing those disparities in healthcare and making sure that everyone has a fair chance at, a healthy life.
Yeah, that's good to hear. It gives me, hope that we're moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about green steel.
Okay.
I understand the environmental benefits, but I'm curious about like the economic side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Can green steel compete with traditional steel in terms of price and availability?
That's the challenge, right? So right now, green steel is more expensive to produce than traditional steel. However, as the technology matures, as production scales up, those costs are expected to decrease.
Okay.
Plus, governments are starting to offer incentives to encourage the adoption of green steel.
So it's about creating a level playing field so that sustainable choices can become the more affordable
Yes.
and accessible options.
Yes. And in the long run, the benefits of green steel, the reduced emissions, the cleaner air, a healthier planet, all make it, worthwhile.
Right. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, but we still have one more breakthrough to discuss.
Yeah.
Stem cell therapies.
Right.
You mentioned that they're showing promise in treating various conditions, but I'm curious about the potential downsides. Are there any risks or ethical concerns associated with stem cell research?
That's a great question. Like any medical intervention, stem cell therapies do come with potential risks and ethical considerations. It's important to remember that this is still a relatively new field, and we're constantly learning more about the potential benefits and risks of these treatments.
So it's about proceeding with caution,
Yeah.
ensuring that patient safety is paramount,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're using this technology responsibly.
Exactly. And as research continues, we need to have open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of stem cell therapies, weighing those potential benefits against any potential harms.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider,
Yeah.
but the potential benefits of stem cell therapies are so profound
Yeah.
that it's a field worth exploring.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's true of all 10 of these breakthrough technologies.
Right.
They represent the power of human ingenuity to solve problems, to improve lives, and to shape a better future.
It's been an incredible journey so far, exploring these 10 innovations
Yeah.
that could transform our world. but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, me too.
There's so much more to unpack and understand. You're right. We have covered so much, but it feels like we've only just dipped our toes into the vast ocean of possibilities.
Yeah, we've just scratched the surface, really.
Yeah, exactly. So where do we go from here? What are the key things that we need to be thinking about as these technologies become more integrated, into our lives?
I think one of the most crucial aspects is the ethical development and deployment of these innovations,
Hmm.
right? So we need to make sure that AI systems are, fair, unbiased, transparent, that robotaxis prioritize safety, accessibility, that gene editing tools are used responsibly, and that access to life-saving medications is equitable.
Right. It's like we almost need a set of ethical guidelines
Hmm.
for the future, a roadmap for
Yeah.
navigating all the complexities of these technologies.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. And it's not just about like setting rules, it's about fostering a culture of responsible innovation where we're all, thinking about the potential consequences of our actions and prioritizing the well-being of humanity and the planet.
It sounds like a tall order,
Yeah.
but I mean it's essential if we want to create a future where, technology serves us
Right. Yeah.
and not the other way around.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, preventing harm.
Right.
It's also about using these technologies to create a better world.
Of course.
You know, imagine a future where clean energy powers our cities, where AI helps us solve, complex problems like climate change and disease, where personalized medicine allows us to live longer, healthier lives.
That's a vision worth striving for, I
I
think.
think so too.
But it's going to take, collaboration, innovation, and real commitment to using these technologies, for the greater good.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's not just about, scientists and engineers,
Right. Right.
Everyone has a role to play here. We need policymakers to create, regulations that promote responsible innovation. We need business leaders to prioritize ethical practices. And we need citizens to, engage in informed discussions about the future that we want to create.
It's like a collective responsibility to shape the future of technology, to ensure that it reflects, our values and serves our best interests.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing process. As technology continues to evolve, we need to be adaptable, constantly reassessing, our values and our priorities.
It's like navigating uncharted territory,
Yeah.
where the map is constantly being redrawn.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, we need to be, both adventurous and cautious, always learning and adapting
Yeah.
to the changing landscape.
Well said. And as we navigate this uncertain terrain, it's important to remember that we're not alone.
Yeah.
We have each other and we have the collective wisdom of humanity to guide us.
That's a comforting thought. In a world that often feels divided, it's good to remember that we're all in this together, facing the future as one human family.
Exactly. And with that in mind, I want to leave you with this thought. The future is not something that happens to us. It's
Yeah.
something that we create.
Okay.
Every choice we make, every action we take, it shapes the world we live in.
Yeah.
So let's choose wisely, let's act responsibly, and let's create a future that is worthy of our dreams.
That's a powerful message, and it's a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference. So let's embrace the future with both optimism and a sense of responsibility, knowing that the choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow.
That's a great way to put it. And as we conclude this deep dive, I just want to thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration. It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring these topics, to engage in conversations about the future of technology, and to use your voice to shape the world you want to live in.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep imagining. The future is waiting to be written, and it's up to all of us to write it well.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in to the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of the world around us.